friends, today we're going to be making the background for our pictures Giraffes Can't Dance. So what we're going to do first is draw very lightly with a pencil. The first thing we're going to do is add the horizon line, and that's where the ground and the sky meet. So if you're looking at my picture here, I have mine below the halfway point. It doesn't go up too high. So I'm going to draw a horizontal line across at the bottom. And then in the sky, off to the corner, not right in the middle because we don't want to cover it later with our giraffe, you're going to draw a circle very lightly. Okay, first thing we're going to do is the sky. So I'm going to get blue paint on my brush and I'm going to try to stay outside of the circle using ballerina toes. I'm going to go around my moon shape 2 to 3 times. And now I'm going to start to paint right up against this line, the horizon line. Okay, once I have that done, I'm going to go in and I'm going to just very carefully paint the upper half blue. Okay, so now that we have all the background painted, we're going to add a little halo going around the moon, and we're going to lighten that. We're going to lighten that by creating a tint with the blue. Now, a tint is when we lighten a color. What do you need again to lighten that blue? Right, you're going to need white paint. Now, if it's still wet on your paper, which it looks like mine is, you can just take the white on your brush and mix on your paper. That's what I'm going to do because mine's still wet. If it's not, go ahead, friends, and what you'll do if your background's dry because you spent a little longer painting it, pull some white first from the side, mix a little blue in, and go ahead and mix a tint. But since mine is really wet, I can tell, look how glossy that is. I'm just gonna go right in and mix on my paper. So I'm gonna clean my brush so I have no more blue, grab from the edge, get a good amount. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push light and I'm gonna go around that moon once. I'm not gonna dip it in the paint. What's gonna happen is my brush is gonna pick up a little bit of that blue. So now I'm gonna go around the last layer I did. And I'm gonna keep going and not dipping my brush in the paint. I'm gonna keep spiraling out until it looks like I don't even see any more white coming off my brush anymore. So I'm just gonna keep going around. All right, so there's that, friends. There's our little glow on our moon. Now we need to make some grass. We don't have green. So what 2 colors do I need to make green? Great, I need a little yellow and blue. So what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna mix on my palette. I'm actually going to mix on my paper. It's gonna go quicker and it's gonna give us time to do the texture part for our grass. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go in with a little bit of yellow paint below that horizon line. If your blue paint is still wet, perfect. Drag some of it in. And as I'm going in with that yellow paint, I'm gonna get a teeny bit of blue. And I'm gonna slowly kind of mix that in until I have the bottom portion of my paper painted. Now what happens if it looks a little too blue? Maybe I wanna brighten this up more. What can I add more of? Great, I can add a little more yellow. So if I wanna brighten it up a little more, I can add more yellow. And this is another type of way that artists mix, is they go in and they mix on their canvas or paper instead of mixing on their paint palette. Okay, so now I have that all mixed. Thankfully, since I did it on my paper, I was able to do it quick. Now, using the handle of my brush in the grass only, we're gonna make some lines. And because this is still wet, what's gonna happen when I wiggle with my brush, we're just gonna do some loose kind of zigzags. You're gonna end up getting some of the paint pulled. And in the areas that the handle of your brush is touching, I'm using my handle, you're gonna get some lines, some lighter lines, and create a texture in your art. Okay, friends, we are now going to do the drawing of our giraffe for Giraffes Can't Dance. now we've used shapes and lines to create figures of people. Now what you're going to do is you are going to use shape and lines to create an animal, and you're also going to change the direction of some of the lines to show movement. So the first thing you want to keep in mind is we really want to make that giraffe kind of big because you have a lot of tiny areas that you will later on have to cut around. So if you draw your shapes too small, it's going to be very difficult to do that. What I'm going to start with first, kind of up near the corner of my paper, but saving room, you will use a pencil. I'm just starting with a Sharpie so you can see. You're going to draw an oval for the head. And then you're going to come down and you're going to draw a circle. Don't get too close to the edge because we will have to draw the arms. You're then from that top oval going to do a curve that comes near the edge here, about right up here, kind of towards the top edge, and curves down to that circle. You're going to do another one that comes from here, and this one's going to get farther away from that first line as it's coming down because you want the neck of your giraffe to get wider as it comes down. We're then going to go in and draw the arms. So we're going to start with a simple line. Think of the direction you want your arms to be. You have your upper arm and lower arm. So in my example, he's going to have one arm up, but one arm kind of looking like it's headed towards his hip. So in this case, this one, I'll have to do the upper arm going here, the lower arm coming down. In this one, I'm just going to do a straight line. So I will have a couple examples up front for you to look at if you want to see how to draw the arms and legs to show different movements. But if you want to just follow along with me, you can too. So I'm going to start with a line that kind of comes up. And then over here, I'm going to do a line that comes horizontal and then comes back towards the body. So this should be a full arm, that should be a full arm. Now the same thing goes for the legs. The legs tend to be a little bit longer usually. So for this leg, I'm gonna have his leg kind of coming out. Think of this as his knee and then it comes back. But then this one I'm gonna have going straight. Okay, so now we're gonna, kind of looks like a stick figure. So we're going to add another line around to give it and to turn it into rectangles. So this one, you're just gonna come out and then come back down. This one, come out and then come back down like that. Same thing with here. We're basically just following along the last line we did. Now we're gonna add the hooves at the bottom, just some lines across the top and the legs and arms. The tail, we're just gonna start out with a line and a circle. You can add more detail later if you want. We're gonna do a little circle in the stomach. All right, and then for the face, we're gonna do two curves, like his eyes are closed, two little dots for the nostrils, a little curve coming from the edge. We're gonna do the little horns that come off the zebra. And then we're gonna have him doing almost like a side profile view, so you can only see one ear that comes up at a curve like this, comes back, and then you do another one on the inside. Great, look at that. So we've been able to position, start out by lines before we drew our shapes, to come up with how we wanted our figure of our animal to move. And just like with human form, you start out with shapes and lines when you're drawing an animal. So now that we have the giraffe done, we're gonna draw the famous patterns of the giraffe, your circles. So go ahead throughout the legs and body and arms of your giraffe, you are going to draw circles.